Oh my gosh. Infected. All types.
Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 229th live stream from the Misfit Gamer Studios. I am your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's episode, we have yet another background from Demzmar. This one is the Carpenter, and this will probably be maybe the last that we hear from Des for like a week or two, because we did get a whole bunch of new submissions, so we might be changing it up here. But Des is still in the lead on top of the list because we haven't gotten through the new submissions yet. So let's find out what we have after this, but let's take a look at what the Carpenter has in store, or what Des has in store for us with the Carpenter. I can speak, I swear. Let me get Kage in here real quick. Boom, boom. What up, my friend?
Kaboom! Shalom, everyone. What's happening, my friends? How you guys doing?
Little loud, but I can take care of that. Boom.
Bring it down.
There we go. You're good.
Oh, gentle, wonderful, awesome. Yo, I was looking through the Discord and seeing all the submissions we have in there, and my goodness, it looks beautiful to see that like stocked, man.
Right?
I am hyped.
It's exciting to not have to worry about it again. But now you have so much work to do to format it all. But you know, it's good. And, it's good. It's good that we have it, and now we won't be process down. Hopefully that'll take us at least through what maybe till the holidays. At least get us through the holidays.
I was about to say it's gotta last us to the end of the year. I got 25 alone from Des and their new submissions.
Okay, that's good. That's really good.
Then I got a bunch from Hecate, and Hecate was telling me they got even more coming up pretty soon too. So,
all right. Yeah. Well, we already know that Des has pretty much, by the end of it, will surpass Cosmic in the amount of submissions. So, I think after that, I think it'll be Hecate will be close in third position with submissions.
Yes.
And then it would be Pokeniner after that.
Actually,
in terms of because I'm just really curious, like, if y'all want to catch up, not only can you submit anything, and of course we'll get it into rotation, but if you want to catch up and be, you know, on the leaderboard in any other way other than getting a 10 out of 10, you might have to start churning out some homebrew for us to take a look at.
Let's see. If Hecate has more than 9 things, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, but this is multiple feats. Hold on, let me look.
I'm counting the new submissions.
I get more than 9. If I get more than 9 submissions from Hecate, they will have beat out Cosmic as well. So, Cosmic,
all right. So that'll put Cosmic in the 3rd place for number of submissions. Soul, you've not gotten a 10 out of 10 yet? Has Soul really not gotten a 10 out of 10?
Are we sure? I should have that be a stat, like highest reviewed or whatever. Let me see if I can filter for Soul.
I mean, you should just be able to filter for 10 out of 10, right?
Oh, yeah, I guess that's fair. They haven't. The closest they got was a 9 out of 10 for their College of Soul Strings.
Okay. But remember, that's not that is not a measure on you, Soul. That is just a measure of the ability for me, or the desire for me to use what you created. So, you know, 10 out of 10 doesn't necessarily mean anything.
And here's the deal. I genuinely think, and I don't think this is a bane to myself, but I don't think anything that I would create would necessarily get a 10 out of 10 from Vortex. I don't think that it would. Even when I'm like fully satisfied and it works exactly how I want it to, I don't necessarily know if Vortex would give it a 10 out of 10. So like if even I'm not getting 10 out of, like, and I know exactly how his realm works, I do things a little bit differently, and that's totally chill. So
but it's also who are you making it for? If you're making it for me, that's one thing, but you shouldn't be making it for me. We don't do this for ourselves. I mean, the only reason we threw in the rating system was just to have a cap off to the stream, right? It was just a way for me to express how interested I would be in using it. But you know, it should never be like the goal to have me want something, you know what I mean? It's just more of a reference point. But yeah, you should be making things that you want to use or that you think other people would want to use. But you just don't want to be able to flex that you got a 10 out of 10. I mean, you know, when there's a rating system, who doesn't want to be at the top? I mean, that's fair. As long as you know that it doesn't mean anything and it's completely arbitrary, then, you know, you go for it. You get that rating.
You do you.
There are currently, Dez says there are currently 6 10 out of 10s belonging to Cosmic Hecate and Dez. All right, so there's only 3 10 out of 10s. There's only 3 people who have gotten 10 out of 10s of the 6 that have been given.
Okay.
So that means 3 people out there have directly influenced and changed High Point forever, who have never even played. That's actually kind of crazy to think that 3 people who have never played in High Point have actually changed High Point forever. That's actually kind of crazy. I never thought of it that way. I just thought of it as a, you know, hey, if I came across this, or because I've come across this, I would use this as an inspiration or as an idea in my realm. But that's actually kind of crazy to think that people who have, like, because, you know, that happens, right? You know, I just read something online and I'm like, oh, I'll work on that. But because none of this I worked on, because this was just directly, they made it from scratch and everything worked. I never even thought of it that way. That random people are changing my realm.
That's an interesting perspective on our reviews. Like, instead of like the scores being for them, the scores are more for you than anyone else. The scores are about how you see the things and how you're taking the things, and not necessarily like a description on how quality they are or aren't. It's just how well does this jive, work, function. So I like that. I like that a lot.
I think it's good. Again, if that's your goal, then that's fine, but it shouldn't be your goal, right? The review process is just 2 random people online chit-chatting about what we think and what our experiences are, and you know how we respond to what we're reading. But you know, there is a little bit of ego though. I mean, I get it. You know, like I said, if there's a rating system, we want to be on top. All right, and a quick update before we get to today's review, y'all. The subathon. So I did want to originally do it on the 3rd because that is the closest to our subathon date, which is May 5th. But we won't be able to do that due to my schedule. So we are going to be moving that to Saturday the 9th. So not this coming weekend, but a week from Saturday, we will do our 3rd subathon, our 3-year anniversary subathon, because we will have been streaming for 3 years on the 5th of May.
Well, is this our 3rd subathon, or is this the 2nd one we've done?
Well, I guess technically it's the 2nd because we didn't do one for the 1st year. So this would be our 3rd year, our 3rd anniversary, but it is our 2nd subathon because we weren't even able to have subs, I think, in the 1st year. So, yeah.
Yes.
So this is our 2nd subathon, but for year 3. But that's exciting. That's super exciting.
Dude, that's wild. That's wild. We've been at this, man.
3 years, twice a week is just absolute insanity to think about.
There's a couple exceptions here and there, but we've been on it, man. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, 229 episodes of just this already. You know what I mean? Of just reviews. That's not even to say all the game streams, all of the community streams. Like that number does not count anything else other than D&D discussions specifically, with the reviews or with dedicated talks. But like, so I mean, because we have over like 700 videos in the VOD now. I think, like between the VOD and the main channel, I think maybe I'm exaggerating. Let me double check. I actually don't know how many, like, because I mean, I have like, I would say 90%, I would say 98%, 99% of everything we've done. All right, let's see. How many videos do we actually have? So that's just like 10. That only shows, Okay, so hold on. I have 30 episodes per page, and I am currently looking at 397 pages. So we have upwards
397 times 30?
That's over 10,000 videos. That doesn't sound right. That can't be right.
Because 300 times 10 is...
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. So we have 397 videos there, which is from the VOD channel. Plus, so we have about 400 just on the VOD channel because there were a couple other ones that I individually uploaded. So we have about 405 on the VOD channel, and then on the main channel, we have another, I want to say like 20 or 30. Let me see. Another 40 videos there. So we have close to 450 videos. So this is D&D Discussions 2 episode 229, but we have close to 450 videos, and that may not be every stream either. So yeah, over 450 streams over 3 years. That's a fucking lot, my dude.
So clean. That's so cool. I'm just looking back at our videos, man. Like, God bless. Yo, we've been at this, dude. That's so crazy.
We've come
so crazy,
so far. Like we are so different than we used to be. Just going back through some of these is just it's kind of insane to think.
It's so wild to look at. It's so wild to look at. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it, man. It's so fire.
Which just really goes to show you like all of the like why it's hard to keep up with all of the reviews that we've done. Like it does just get kind of caught into the mix of just everything that we've ever talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Hours upon hours, man. And then I go back to like so far where I see like the old way that we used to do it, and I'm just like, oh. Although, ironically enough, we're actually closer in this layout. We're actually closer in this layout to our original layout than we ever have been.
Oh, so it wasn't a... Actually, that's kind of valid. Because it was just this, but the background was a lot different.
Yeah. That is kind of funny, though. Anyway, nice little trip down memory lane. But we'll save the rest of that for the subathon. Maybe we'll do some clips of old episodes during the subathon or something.
That's valid. That's valid. Maybe we should like have it would be so interesting if we could have like people in chat like roll for like a certain episode, and we'll like go in there and like take a look at it and see if we can't find some like hidden gems in an episode or something like that.
Do like some commentary. We'll click through it and then find something to make commentary about.
Yeah. I mean, because like you said, if we want to do any kind of React content, it might as well be on our own stuff.
I'm not against it.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Let's get into today's review, shall we?
Indeed. We are review, and
all right.
This is by Dez.
We got The Carpenter, a new background by Demzmar Sama. All right. And as always, with reviews, we will start with the description. Skilled artisans known as carpenters shape the tangible dreams of architects, builders, and craftsmen alike. With calloused hands and a keen eye for craftsmanship, they breathe life into wood, creating everything from humble furnishings to majestic structures that stand as testaments to their skills. Interesting. So the first thing I pick up there is the specificness of breathing life into wood and not other materials. So specific to wood carpentry. I like that. I
Okay.
like that we're focusing it not just on a general construction or aspect, but we are actually refining it to more the furnishings and structures. I actually kind of like that that specificity. There we go.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, this is cool. Cool.
The skills that it comes with are athletics and survival. I'm gonna say right off the bat, those are not the first two things that came to mind when I'm thinking of a woodworker. someone who builds furniture and houses. Athletics and survival are, I mean, maybe survival for the shelter concept.
If you're talking about building domiciles, I could see athletics only because you're gonna definitely need some strength if you're out here trying to like heave trees and bring up beams. Like imagine if you're like trying to build a cabin or something like that, and you're trying to like, stack logs and whatnot. I could see the need for some strength.
I would probably even go
that
as far
mindset.
as, okay, if you're going to go with athletics for that purpose of like the ideology of the physical attribute, I would say then give it like something like blacksmithing or something, because, making your own nails, making your own tools, like I would expect one of the proficiencies to be more in line with the actual use of the background. Whereas like, I don't know, survival just doesn't quite seem to match up to it unless the ideology is you're building a cabin in the woods, right? You need to be able to survive while you're building it, but that's not really the vibe I'm getting from this.
Right.
So I can get behind athletics from what you're saying, but I would probably swap out survival.
I almost might say something like sleight of hand, but sleight of hand wouldn't do it right,
True.
Because sleight of hand, like maybe for like intricate, dexterous like elements or something like that. But yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one because usually they do have at least two skill proficiencies in the background. I might go something more cerebral, like especially because I would imagine like a carpenter being some sort of business, right? So if I'm a business owner, whether I'm going to your house to fix stuff in your house, if I'm building stuff for you, or if I have a little shop and I just sell little things that I make out of wood, right?
So
All of those things I feel like have some sort of element of
yeah.
commerce associated with it. So
Well, and I'm looking here
persuasion,
based on all of the skills, right? So athletics is coming from strength, and that's really the only option. So I kind of see why they're going with that if they're trying to lean in on strength. But when it comes to survival, that's in wisdom. I feel like maybe perception or insight would be fine as an alternative. But even under intelligence, I mean, the idea of like even history sounds better for someone that would create, right? I wouldn't mind history.
I
So,
like the idea of history.
but it really just depends on, because I mean, again, when you give them with athletics, you're kind of telling them to lean into strength, or at least you're trying to cover strength. But I feel like that's not as beneficial as something like intelligence over wisdom, because history makes more sense, I think, than survival.
So the way I look at a lot of these backgrounds is similar to how I look at some races, and it says like, what would it make sense for you to be good at as a result of you doing X, right? So what would it make sense that you would be skilled at as a result of being a carpenter, right? It could make sense that you're pretty athletic as a result. You're doing a lot of physical labor activity, even if you're not hefting up big stuff, like you're carrying heavy hammers and tools, and you're using your physicality on a regular basis. So I
Fair
can
enough.
see that. But like, what else are you using on a regular basis that's gonna like manifest itself that enough for you to say I'm skilled at that thing? You know what I mean? So like, there's definitely some options out there. I think like you said, history is a huge one. I think that's great. Depending on the type of carpentry you're doing, like maybe you worked at a church and you can make an excuse for having religion specifically as your skill proficiency. I don't think it would make sense to articulate that here in the subclass itself.
That's where I feel like history makes sense, because you kind of have an understanding of how buildings were built in the past. So
yeah,
it's a tough it's a tough one. I'm not going to say it was an easy choice. I mean, there's a very limited skill set here. But you were saying just before you inspired an idea for me, either a new set of proficiencies that we can come up with, or almost like a feat. And I think it would work similar to how guidance or inspiration works. I would love a feat or a proficiency either called maths or calculations. Basically, you've learned this ability to roughly understand complex things. So let's say someone wants to build a catapult, you can give them a bonus. Or let's say someone's trying to aim a ballista, you can use this skill to calculate and go, hey, I'm going to give them a bonus to their aiming because I can tell them the trigonometry. I can tell them actually you need to aim a little higher. It's kind of like guidance. It's kind of like inspiration, but only used for physically mechanical things that you would have to sit down and run numbers for. I think
that's an interesting point. Like,
it doesn't have to be math specifically, but like, just mechanically inclined, it could be called. Like, that could be the feat.
I do like that, mechanically inclined. That's cool. If somebody were trying to accurately fire a ballista and they'd never done it before, what would you make somebody roll for that? Like,
I would probably do intelligence.
What kind of
assuming that they were of enough strength and you didn't require like a strength check, a dex check for all of the mechanics. If they knew how the thing worked, I would probably make it intelligence for them to be able to understand how to aim it.
Okay. No, I can get behind that. Because I definitely think stuff like that is underrated, like underutilized, like stuff that's more specific, like, hey, whether it is, calculating like the trajectory of something, or trying to figure out like how far down something is, even something like that, like,
what if the rogue is setting up a trap and you can give them a bonus to you can give them a bonus or a negative to someone's perception, because you're like, hey, let me calculate, they're gonna see it easily from this angle, so if you move it, it'll be harder to see. So like a trap going against your perception actually has a negative to roll, so it's more likely that, so shit like that. So again, it's in times that you would want to use guidance, but guidance wouldn't help you. It's moments like that where it's like, hey, you're going to set up a trap. Let me use my calculation to figure out where the best spot to put it is so they don't find it. Or the ballista. Or, it's something as simple as like, hey, I want to set up this like rope bridge or a rope swing so we can all get across properly. And they have a role to do it. Maybe the calculation guy could be like, hey, I've calculated the best way to do it. I'm going to tell him how to do it. And then that person over there. So you can stack it with guidance in certain situations, but other situations it would replace guidance.
Yeah. I definitely think there's a place for that. I for sure think there's a place for that.
So we should talk, either if someone out there is listening right now and wants to create that proficiency or that feat, I think both of them work. I think it could be a proficiency. I think it could be a feat. I think it makes more sense as a proficiency, but at the same time, that kind of is more difficult to add into the game. So it would be easier to add it as a feat. Right, just something that you can take.
It would, almost like a non-spell spell,
Yeah, because it's more like guidance. It's more like a bonus to doing stuff instead of like an ability to do something, right? Because the proficiency is the ability to do something. This is more like increasing your odds of something. So it'd be more like a feat. But yeah, mechanically inclined or calculations or maths, just something that identifies that you have a different spatial awareness, a different way of looking at things in order to give it a better outcome, because, hey, based on these details, it should be oriented differently, right? I'm curious how the language would work best to implement that, but I'm going to think about that for High Point. That definitely needs to be a thing in High Point.
Heck yeah. Although I feel like High Point already has a boon because it's second edition and you have all types of proficiencies.
And that's really what it is like, I would give bonuses to someone who wanted to say, hey, I just want to be able to be good at this, but this is now more of a codified way of someone to be able to put it into their character, like at creation. So I like that. But moving on with the Carpenter, we have tool proficiencies. We get Carpenter's tools. Who would have thought? We got Carpenter's tools. Or you get Woodcarver's tools. I mean, let's face it, was there any other options?
I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I fully forgot that there were both of those.
Right.
Like, I really did. Like, I was like, oh, they have both woodcarvers and carpenter's tools. I guess that does make sense. That makes perfect sense.
This is interesting. Languages say one additional common language. Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by additional common language.
So there is a separation between common languages and exotic languages in D&D, fifth edition specifically. So
Okay.
something
Okay.
like
That's what it's
Elvish,
trying to separate
Gnomish,
from.
and Dwarvish, those are common languages. But if you're talking about something like
Like celestial,
Celestial or
abyssal.
Elemental, or yeah,
Gotcha.
yes.
That makes more sense. Again, the verbiage was not something that we've seen before in a fifth edition review, so I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly what we were talking about. Carpenters don't speak Infernal. It depends on where they've worked before, okay? Some of us in the labor industry have actually had to work in hell, okay? The jobs are hell, so maybe they know a little bit of Infernal. I'm just saying.
Yep.
I mean, I used to do HVAC, okay? Believe me, I've been in hell plenty of times.
That's facts. That's facts.
I just never knew I had to climb a ladder to get into hell. You know what I mean? I always thought I had to go downstairs, but more often than not, hell's right above you. All right. So one additional common language. I'm okay with that. I think that makes sense, especially for a business-minded background, someone who would have made could have been in different communities or had different backgrounds. See, this is actually interesting. We've talked about this before, where certain things from the background could come with a chart. I think the last one that we did was the lab assistant, and we said that you could have a chart of who your old boss was, and based on the old boss, it could decide your trinket or other aspects. Imagine if this was tied to language. What if you listed all of the languages, and based on which additional common one you chose, also gave you like a specialty? So if you chose Elven, you would be really, really good at makeshift wood buildings or tree houses. If you chose Dwarven, you'd be really good at making buildings fortified with stone. If you know what I mean? Like, based on the extra language, maybe you'd have a specialty understanding of a type of structure or furniture. And that would just help you in your role play and what you could create. But that would be,
that.
Because I don't think anybody has really done that with language, like really tied language to anything deeper than what you can read, write, speak.
Actually, yeah, this is very true. But like, very similar to how we've been talking, like, we want these things to feel more like alive in a sense, meaning like they have purpose, like they're actually building towards something in the world rather than just existing just to exist. You know what I mean? So doing something like that, like saying, hey, because you worked for the clergy here, because you were a part of this kingdom and you made tables and chairs for a king, you are more skilled at vinyl work, right? Putting like upholstery on chairs and
like
stuff
royalty
like that,
could be one of the choices.
Yeah, like there's definitely a lot of possibilities for stuff like that, and I think that's a really cool way to do it.
So yeah, I think either tying it into the language could be really fascinating, just to kind of figure out like what kind of unique aspects you can come up with for a history, unlike what you know. And you also bring up something interesting there too that we need to talk about on a different day, is whether or not common, like there's an old concept in older editions of common having like two variations, right? Almost like a slang version of common, and it sparked some interesting concepts.
You're talking about the language?
What's that?
You're talking about the language common?
Yeah, like it was almost like split into two different versions, and
got you.
It brought up a different conversations about, societal levels of language. And so a conversation we should have too is, is high society its own language? And what I mean by that is you may be able to speak Common, you may be able to speak Elven. But walking into the king's throne room and speaking Common with the king is not the same as walking into the local inn and speaking Common with the bartender. So I have in High Point, one of my little features is that whatever language you know, you can learn it again and you can get a refined version of it.
Interesting.
Now,
okay.
There are lower versions of Common, but those are all local. And I only use those not for the concept of like another language that you learn, but it's more for the specifics of when your campaign or storyline follows the need for locale, like you being identified as a local is important. That's where local Common matters. But it's not really something I roleplay because it's only a matter of when it comes into importance. So there is such a thing in High Point as local Common, but that's just more of an identifier of if you go home, you know that you're home when an outsider comes. Like that's basically how I explain why people know you're an outsider. Like you can walk into a town and everyone speaks Common, but you stick out like a sore thumb sometimes. It's probably because you stick out because you don't speak local Common, right? But it's not something that you would necessarily immediately understand or know, because it's kind of like a new, someone coming into your hometown, you don't know why they stand out, they just do. But why? It's because they sound different. But you don't know that. You don't pinpoint, oh, they don't say that word right. It's just like, why do I know you don't belong here?
Why does this not fit? One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong.
But I've always debated on whether or not to give people a choice of like a high level Common. So usually what I do is in specific types of role play, I've made that apparent, as in, hey, you stand out because you really don't speak their language, in the sense of, you just don't have eloquency in your words. And so that can play out like if you're talking to a king and trying to get them to believe you or work with you, you have to try a little harder and you have to get better roles because you're just a commoner, right? But I've debated on whether or not to codify an actual like way to increase your understanding of a language, to bump it into that more eloquent level of language, to make those interactions easier instead of you requiring a background, right? Because if you have a background of like nobility, I kind of just tie that in, right? So if there's anybody in the party that's a noble, they're automatically the people that anybody of that upper echelon will immediately gravitate to talk to because they immediately identify them as a peer. But I've wondered, what can I do to let someone add on to their character, with that, so they can then utilize it to their benefit directly instead of it being woven into a default of their character creation.
Got you. Interesting.
So yeah,
I kind of like that idea.
So yeah, we should definitely explore this idea of, what are all the levels of language and what does it mean to actually know the language, on its levels? Because that's a great conversation itself.
Absolutely.
And then moving on, we have equipment. Carpenter tools, woodcarver's tools, a Maker's Mark brand, hammer, tradesman's overalls, which are just common clothes. Okay, so hammer and common clothes with the tradesman's overalls are great. I like the Maker's Mark brand, and then of course carpenters and woodcarver's tools. Everything seems to fall in line here.
I feel like that Maker's Mark brand can be used in a very creative way if you're smart about it, especially depending on where you worked. Like, say you did work for a king, say you did do that, say you could create a piece of furniture or an item or whatever that has that brand on it and claim it came from a specific source, even though you don't theoretically work there anymore.
This right here is exactly why history makes more sense. Because let's say you want to get an in with somebody and that, there's some hoity-toity art collection, you could be like, hey, that piece of furniture, I see that brand. I know who made that. This is a forgery. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those like key aspects of history would make more sense because you would know who and how something was created. You could talk about architecture. You could talk about how a piece of furniture was crafted. There's your in and why history makes more sense.
You know how there's some artists and how they can detect
I like that,
forgeries
Des.
by the techniques that were used to create the art. It was like, hey, they use these type of brush strokes. Well, they didn't know how to use these brush strokes, or they didn't have the technology to use this
Mm-hmm.
to do this type of art back when this was supposed to have been created. So I know it's a forgery because it's well past its date. So I
Or
like
like
the
knowing the
idea of like, oh,
nails,
this was
right?
supposed to be made by this person, but it's supposed to have be made by the person with this brand. Well, they died in this time period, and this technique that was used here didn't exist when they were around. So
Or
there's
what
no
about
way this person could have
materials?
made that.
Like knowing like, oh, they only
Yeah,
use this kind of wood and this isn't that kind of
absolutely.
wood, or they only use these kind of nails, or they don't use nails, and you can see right here. So just shit like
Mhm.
that. That could be a
Yep.
better character arc than survival for Carpenter, right? Like having that history of being able to just say, like, I can look at something and break it down. I like, yeah, that's that's great. I like that. And
I
then
really
like the
like it.
maker's mark really leads into that too.
Big facts.
All right, cool. So nothing wrong with any of those. So far, so good. Let's look at some of our features. Okay, so we get feature of construction through your time milling, constructing, and generally building all manners of things. You've got an eye for it now. Looking at any wooden construction, you can ascertain the construction cost, how long it took to make, how to duplicate it, and where all the weak spots are. So very similar to what we were just saying, but this perfectly still ties into what we were just talking about with history. This ability and your history is exactly what we were just describing.
Bro, imagine you walked into a room and like you saw somebody sitting in a chair and you maybe wanted to troll them or whatever, or maybe like whisper to the barbarian, hey, I want you to go behind that chair and I want you to kick it like 2 inches below the seat.
Right?
And then it just takes the leg out and the person falls or whatever. And it's like, just because you know like very specifically like where to hit something, I love this mentality.
I
And
like
I think
this.
that putting something like this in there encourages people to think like that, because I'm not going to look for weak spots, generally speaking, unless I have a reason to be like I wouldn't.
Can you imagine
Generally
using this
speaking,
as a backup in case the rogue can't unlock a treasure chest? So you can like use this to find a weak spot to see if the barbarian can like kick open a hole and actually like dislodge it
bro, yes,
or like break the
yes.
hinges. Like there's some method to this madness in here. So I like that. I like that. It definitely tells me that we need history along with it, because both of those combined make such a unique character bond with how they can play it.
I'm super curious. Like, would you let somebody who is trying to get into a chest, right? It's just a regular chest. Would you just let, it's a wooden chest. Would you just let them carve into it and cut it up?
Of course.
Like, I was just like, I don't see why not, but I think so many people don't think of that. Like,
Well, it's
nobody
because A,
thinks that
most
if you just,
people aren't presented with the average standard like footlocker chest, and you're not going to be able to do it with like a sword, right? Like you're not going to take out your dagger and pry at it because it's still a piece of plank of wood, right? It's still a 2x4. But if you got a
yeah.
barbarian with a hammer or a war axe, and it's just a regular everyday chest with no, because now if you're talking about a treasure chest with like iron cladding and all that, yeah, that's not going to work. But just if it's a footlocker and you don't need to worry about noise, kick that shit open, throw it out a window. Yes, it's just wood, but no one ever thinks about it because, well, no, it was designed to be unlocked. No, it's a piece of wood. Break the shit open if you want. I 100% am
Absolutely,
okay with that,
bro,
just
for
people don't
real.
think about doing it.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think that this puts people's minds in a different space, and I think that's so valuable. I think that's so valuable, and I really hope that more people take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I like
when
this.
this
I
is
I I think
shown
this
to
is
them.
great. This is a really good opportunity. Something that I don't think people would. Oh, hang on a second. Hang on one second.
Yep, go ahead. Let's see what we got here. Really, Des used to flip houses in IRL. Uh, That's very cool. That's very cool. See, I've had those thoughts when it comes to like some computer programming stuff and like watching how people like do things in their electronics, but never like in their house. So I think that's a vibe. I like that, Des. And I think that lends to your creativity when building uh uh um backgrounds like this too. So you can see things in a way that a lot of other people wouldn't, and see like opportunities for features and abilities that again a lot of other people wouldn't. So I think that's a huge boon to something like this for sure.
All right, and then let's look at building a carpenter character. Carpenters are skilled artisans who may have learned their trade in a family workshop, and as such, are typically artificers as an apprentice or through formal education. Okay, so leaning into artificers makes sense. They are essential contributors to the construction industry and often find themselves in demand for various building projects. Carpenters take pride in their creations and may have a personal project or masterpiece they dream of building. When creating a carpenter character, work with the DM to establish character backgrounds and carpentry and the nature of your most significant projects. So this is really interesting because, yes, I get why artificers seem like the most natural choice because they both tinker with stuff. But in my mind, artificers, I think, are like tinkering on the small side, like they're tinkering with gadgets, not necessarily buildings. I kind of went like, I could see kind of a wizardish doing this, but my first thought was like a monk, like an old abbey monk who helped build the abbey and built their own furniture and eventually like also stepped away. So they're a carpenter, but also a monk. And then I thought, I don't know why my brain went to this, but then I was like, I immediately went to real world and I was like, well, what about the Amish? Because this kind of sounds like a very strong Amish background. And then I'm like, well, what would an Amish look like in D&D? And then my mind immediately went to Paladin. Like an old school, can you imagine? So a character with the carpenter background from like an Amish-ish D&D level community, you know, very strict in their ways, very humble in their beliefs, but then left to go, you know, to either go spread or, I mean, not to take too much civil liberty here with a whole belief system, but to kind of appropriate it into D&D, have a carpenter from a village have to kind of turn paladin-esque in order to go bring back people who kind of went on their own like Rumspringa and then couldn't make it their way back. So he has to go and like help them out and find their way back. Like there's a story there that I feel like the carpenter has so much benefit into so many different classes, because the idea of that homegrown skilled person who had to build everything they know can really fall into so many different classes. I mean, oh, a thief. Exactly. You learn to build houses so well, you know how to get into them. Oh, that's so good.
And that's why I think that something like this is like, I know that it is generally traditional to say, hey, people with this background are usually something like an artificer. But just like every other background, you can be whatever you want.
Oh, absolutely.
You could be like absolutely anything, you know? And so I think that this one actually lends to a significant amount of variety and versatility that you don't necessarily see. Like, what was the last one that we did? Last one that we did was laboratory assistant, right? And so there's a lots of instinctual things. You know, we're talking wizard, we're talking artificer, we're talking other stuff. Now, granted, you could go rogue, you could go monk, you could go cleric even, but you know, I think that one, it's okay to say it lends towards those things because those things have almost like a clear path to those. This one, I would say the path is not necessarily clear. No matter which way you go, you could go 6 different ways to Sunday and it would still make a perfect sense. So I love stuff like this that actually has versatility to it. So yeah, I'm here for that.
Yeah, it definitely inspires a lot to try and utilize it. So definitely will fit with a lot of different builds, which is really good. I think every background should be able to fit into most, I don't want to say all, but backgrounds should be able to fit into most builds.
Absolutely.
All right,
Agreed.
so let's look at some of the suggested character traits that Des has for this. Finding peace in the rhythmic sound of hammering and sawing as they work on projects.
Already sounds like a monk.
Right. When entering a new settlement, always observe the buildings, noting their construction and possible improvements. That also could be flipped to their possible weak intrusion points. That could be for the monk, or I mean for the rogue. So you can
Yes,
kind of
absolutely.
like reword some of those. Fiercely protective of tools and become unsettled when others handle them carelessly. That's great. I like that one. That one's harder to play, but really worth it.
But like, imagine you walk into like a blacksmith shop and you just see like all their tools in like a significant disarray, and they're not well taken care of, and they're all chipped and they're all messed up, and you just get aggravated and pissed off. Or
just noticing that. Like just walking in and just being like, "Hey guys, this isn't the blacksmith we want to be at. We don't want to be here. Like this guy doesn't take care of his tools. We don't want to like this isn't the best blacksmith in the town. We should move."
And to be honest, I think that, and again, this goes into how much detail you put in your world. I think that if DMs played into stuff like that, so if you go in there and you ask your DM like, hey DM, how are his tools look? Does his tools look well taken care of? Do they look, and having that have the end result that, yeah, he's going to sell you weapons, but these weapons might break after a while.
Right. Or you can just tell he may not have the best stock. He may not have the best skill sets to even accomplish the job. I know I like that. And that's the other thing too is, as the DM, you want to pay attention to all of these because of moments like that, right? Because you want to be able to have them utilize those things in RP, because a lot of this stuff won't be found in combat, right? So it'll be nice to be able to see this stuff actually utilized.
This is just a random DM note, but I really think that like something that I try to do with my players is whenever I'm describing what's before you, I don't personally think about what's literally in front of them. I think about what each of the players is likely to see. Right? And so I'll describe a general scene that everyone sees, but I'll make sure to include specific points that, like, this person, if they're paying attention, would take note of. Like, say, in a situation like
I try to do the same.
There is a carpenter. It's like, okay, I will say to the whole table when you walk in here, like the wood is in very very much a state of disrepair, or you notice like the architecture. Like I'll say stuff that's specific to them. If you have a cleric in the party, I'll mention like religious symbols that are around. If there's a druid in the party, I'll let you know if there are animals or creatures around.
The entire description is meant to entice every player's perception, and
yes,
I like that. I try to do the same thing, but I'll usually break it out. So I'll be like, here's what everybody sees, but here's what you notice. And you happen to notice that, like, I will give everybody the general, but then I'll give individuals their piece.
Yes. Yep. I like that.
Number 4, they have a soft spot for children and enjoy teaching them simple woodworking skills. That could be good, depending on if you're traveling from village to village. Also great for like a cleric. So, or a monk, both of those fall into that. Mine's always buzzing with ideas for new projects. They carry a sketchbook to capture them. Could be a good plot hook for a DM to use. Maybe you have a device in there that you came up with that people really want. Or maybe you're just really good at solving problems. So while you have some downtime, you can get free room and board because you just can help people fix things around the village. So a little bit there, not a lot, but a little bit. Maybe you can sell your sketches.
What the trinkets are going to be.
Right.
And if one of the sketches might be of a project that you're working on, and maybe you have like a prototype of that project that you've been working on, like maybe a little mechanism, a woodworking mechanism.
That sounds like Artificer for sure. Last one, I'm particular about the quality of materials I use, and when I go to great lengths to find the finest wood for my creations, that definitely gives DMs options for side quests.
And that gives me druid vibes. I saw somebody in the chat mention druid before. But yeah, that
See,
definitely.
this is one of those things as a
They feel
DM,
like they can be the ones that care about the wood.
right? Well, and this is those things where I would almost like put in either in a side quest or an individual character arc for this, where I'd let them figure out like what appears to be like a mundane weapon they would notice has a very peculiar handle, or some kind of like let's say it's like an axe, but you're just like, you can't let go of that handle. And then upon further inspection, you realize like that handle is just way too nice to be on just like a regular axe. And then you find out like it's a piece to something bigger.
Oh, dude, that would be a quest hook for the ages. You find like a literal mundane axe, you buy it in a shop, and you notice the handle, and it is the handle of like potentially a legendary weapon that somehow got
Yeah,
dismantled and put in like different, and you can like now go like try to like reassemble it or something
that's what I'm
yo,
thinking.
that would be crazy. That would be kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
All right, let's check out these trinkets. A small carving of an animal that you made in your free time. Not terrible. That would definitely be a good hook for a DM. I would love like if that person was ever able to obtain like a familiar or a pet or something, I would totally want to turn the figurine into the pet. Like have some magical means where it becomes their pet.
Dude, imagine if they were a ranger and they were like the Beastmaster Ranger and they were somehow able to like give life to this thing or something. Like that would be kind of wild. Or even artificers have a little creature in one of their subclasses. I forget what it is. Oh, I'll have to look it up. Let me see if I can look it up. But yeah,
Yeah, druids
I love that idea. I think that's very cool.
druids can be difficult sometimes for luck, but it really just depends on, do you have a strong sense of like the differentiation between magic and nature, and is there enough of a like societal diplomatic aspect? Because otherwise druids, if there's no real like global societal impact, most druids are just spellcasters. Like they're just basic spellcasters. So I get sometimes it can be hard to really integrate them into a game without having more for them to do than just be a spellcaster who likes animals.
Yeah, I'll say this is why for me, background, or not background, but like backstory for all of my players is so valuable because I want to, for me, it's a lot less of what you are, as in like a druid, cleric, whatever, and more about like who you are because there's millions of different types of druids with millions of different reasons for being a druid, right? So like, what's your reason for being a druid? And how do you integrate that particular reasoning into the game? How do you go about bringing life into their reasoning for doing whatever it is that they do? And so, I like let's take Venla for example. Like Venla is a druid. She came from a half-orc village. She was very much outcast, and her druid nature is very much her connection to her personal mother, right? And her attempt to try and save her and to rescue her. So all she really cares about is learning how to heal and bring stuff back to life and the cycle of life and understanding how that works and functions. And so you don't have to be out there hanging out with trees and animals and stuff
Right.
all the time to engage that druid. But like my other druid, Yogg, one of my favorites, she was a moon druid. She just loved animals. She cared more about animals than she did any sort of like humanoid, right? And so she literally almost beat the crap out of one of her party members because they killed a bunch of rats in their hotel room. I was like, that's kind of wild, bro. Like that's kind of wild, but that's how she that's how
Yep.
she operated. That's how she ran. So
That's
no,
how you do.
that's amazing. I get what you're saying, Hoylepa, for sure.
Yeah, druid stuff. Druid stuff to make a good story for. All right, so another trinket, a length of perfectly smooth wood kept as a memento from your first significant project. Harder to implement, but could be interesting. Could definitely work on something there. I'd be curious to see. It would really come down to how the player defines what that perfectly smooth piece of wood looks like, because I think it really has to do with what was the project. I
feel that.
I really like this third one though. A tattered blueprint of a building that you dream of constructing one day. First thought here, my first thought, right, is that you've dreamed of this building, you wrote it down in perfect detail. I would love to have it to where you've gone through the campaign, you're at like the BBEG's place, and something happens, and instead of making that character a roll to like let's say they trip and fall, or they go through into a dark room, and instead of them having to make any rolls, you just say, oh, you trip and fall, but then you just grab the railing that you knew would be there. Or you go into this room and without thinking, you take 2 steps forward, take a step to the left, take 8 paces, and then you're at the lamp. And you're like, how did I know that? Be like, you just knew. And it's like, lead them to the point of, wait, you know this building. This is the building you designed. Like, how cool would that be is you just have this blueprint. Turns out you dreamed of like the BBEG's mansion somehow. And you have it in perfect, like that would be kind of interesting. A nice little tie-in.
I like that. I was thinking of taking it like maybe you end up in the Feywild and you're traveling around somewhere and you stumble upon a house in the middle of the Feywild.
Ooh.
And you look at this house and it's eerily familiar.
It's the one you okay.
And you're like, and you know everything about it, and it's not like it could be like an illusion, but it's basically like somebody like messed with your mind, or they got in your mind, and
could
they
be a dream sequence
for this house, and like all kinds of stuff. Like I love that idea of it's just like, yo, you know this, and you know something is up, because there's no way this house should exist, because the only person who knows it exists is you.
Exactly,
it's yours.
Yeah, so that could be. I like that one. I would mess with that one a lot. A small wooden puzzle box that you crafted, designed to challenge the mind. Oh, I absolutely, I would make that basically like a Pandora's box.
I love that one. I love that one.
A small vial of wood polish that you swear by for keeping your creations looking pristine. Oh, I would. See, like I immediately would be like, what you don't know is it's a magical vial of like unending. So it's like one of those like bottomless vials, and that's just happens to be the liquid that was first put in it. And then a small piece of wood salvaged from a ruined building that you hope to repurpose into something beautiful.
Okay. I like this. I like all of these. I like all of these so much.
Yeah, I think these are good. I think the trinkets are good. The only trinket I was kind of hoping for is like you have like a wood carving tool, or like one specific tool from like your dad or your master, or like the first tool you ever made as a carpenter. That would have been kind of nice. Like maybe I would replace that instead of a perfectly smooth piece of wood. Like it's the first tool that you ever made, or the one that was given to you, and then there'd be kind of some fun with that. But other than that, no, this is pretty solid. My biggest thing is I really am now 100% convinced survival should be history. That's like my number one, my number one change. Absolutely. Otherwise, it's pretty good. It's pretty solid. I think most people would like to use it. I would also probably add a little bit more in terms of helping decipher what type of specialty you have. Like I was thinking about the languages, but something to just kind of give it that little extra, what's your specialty in carpentry, not just generalized. But as you heard, there's tons of inspiration you can take from it. I think this is pretty solid. There's nothing wrong with it in terms of a 5th edition build. I think a lot of people could use it, but I still want just that little extra polish, those few extra little bits.
A little more.
So I'm going to give it a 9. It's near there, but I definitely want to see that survival turn into history, and I want just a little bit more from the construction, just to kind of, this is great, but I'd also want a little bit more of like you can discern like a maker from it, or being able to actually like utilize it for the benefit. But overall, really solid. I think a lot of people would enjoy playing this.
Oh, amazing. Top tier. We love it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that's all I had for today. Gives us another week, extra whole week for the subathon. So we'll figure out how to roll that out and what we're actually going to do all day. Because last time we did mini paintings, I believe. I think we were mini painting the whole time, right?
Is that what I think we did. That's right. We did that. I think we got the Wanderer over there, painted some minis with us.
Mm-hmm. Pixie joined us.
You know what I think could be interesting is if we do like a potential like mini marathon of like all the different things that we do, right? Like imagine we painted some minis, we played a board game, we created something, we just hit all the different spots of stuff that we do. I think that could
Just like every
have some
hour,
value.
like as long as we're on every hour, we do something new for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we could even, depending on, I mean, out of curiosity, is this something you would like to do in person?
Yeah, it would probably be better to do in person. Probably just in general easier.
It could theoretically be possible for me to bring my system over and we could still do some gaming. I mean, I don't know how that would work if we change the setup, if we wanted to move it to, the cave.
We wouldn't be able to do that, but we'd probably be able to set you up in the living room, and then I can just be in the studio.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay.
We'll think about that. I kind of like the idea of a mini marathon where, maybe we'll do like a pop culture build, a sublet and sub. I mean, those usually take a lot longer. So, I like the idea of trying to do a little bit of everything, but we'll have to come up with a solid list because we need, it could go on for a while, but it also could just be 5 hours and that's it. So we'll, we'll talk more. I like this idea. Maybe we'll put it up to a vote once we get a couple solid ideas for what people would want to see during subathon. And then, of course, we'll put it up for a vote in the Discord because, hey, we want to know what everybody out there wants to watch. It's your subathon. What do you want?
Big facts. That's right.
All right. So we'll do that. And then Friday, we didn't get this last Friday done, so we'll have to figure out what to do this Friday. I think last Friday we were supposed to do a creation. I think we were supposed to create something. So we might be able to do that this Friday and see what's going on.
Yeah, I remember we talked about something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah.
Well, because I think we were originally going to do like a sublet and subclass. I think we just hadn't thought about which one we wanted to do yet. Because see, the sublet and subclass, or we can do another pop culture build. No, I think that's what it was. I think we were actually trying to figure out a pop culture build idea because it's been a minute since we've done that one, and we were still trying to come up with some ideas, but we hadn't like nailed it down yet. All right, so let's figure that out. I'm really curious because I know we have a couple in the Discord. I know we have a couple pop culture builds left in the Discord for suggestions, but I wanted a fresh idea. I wanted to do something that we haven't been sitting on for a while. So let's plan for that. So this Friday, pop culture build. We will try to come up with a fresh new one. If you have any ideas, pop them in Discord. We'd love to know what you want to see. Anything from movies, TV, comics, novels, anything that has some substance to it, actually like has powers that we'd be able to transition into D&D, don't want just regular people with, big names. Like, I mean, James Bond is a fun idea, but let's face it, James Bond, like there's probably not too much there. Maybe he's an artificer. Like maybe he's an artificer, maybe he's a ranger, but the more that you can, doesn't have to be a superhero with superpowers, but the more that they have going for them, the more we can make into a D&D character.
Right.
All right, cool. So that will be Friday. And then not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. So a week from Saturday, we're doing our second subathon for our 3rd year anniversary.
Yes.
Second subathon, 3rd year anniversary. I'm extremely excited about that. We'll get a list of all the things that we're going to be doing for everything. And yeah, that'll get all figured out. I think that's it. I think that's all the updates I have.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. I'm hyped for it. I think we're gonna have a good time on our subathon. We're gonna do some good creations, and next week, I will have ready for your consumption a new creation from Hecate called
Ooh.
the School of the Cinderheart.
School of the
Cinderheart.
Is that a
Yes.
school? So that's a wizard?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's a wizard subclass.
Wizard
Um,
subclass. Oh, does it come with new spells? Do we get new spells?
ooh, I don't know. Does it? Let me look. I don't see any new spells. Sadness Everdeen.
Lame.
But I do think there's a decent batch of new spells in Dez's little collection of things he sent us.
Oh,
It
the
does look
compendium
like
that we
there's a new
got.
condition. Oh, there's a new condition.
Ooh, we get a
From
new condition.
Hecate.
Oh, we were just talking about that. We were
Yep.
just talking about some new conditions.
Yep. And I think it's one we were talking about too.
Oh, which one?
Although I don't know if we would consider it to be a condition, because it is being set on fire, ablazed is what it's called.
Okay, and we did talk about that too because we defined last week, I think. No, it was the week before we defined conditions. And conditions
Yeah,
don't do damage. Those are effects.
What do we call those instead? Effects. That's what we
We
call
considered
effects.
effects versus conditions because conditions have either a time limit or an end condition and do not do damage, but do affect your capability to do something, not necessarily an ability. And being set ablaze doesn't sound like it specifically prevents you from doing anything, and it specifically does do you damage. So that may actually go against it as an official condition.
Fair enough, but it's mostly just an addition to what do you call it? An adaptation or an addition to the actual subclass itself.
Gotcha. Cool.
But yeah.
Alrighty then. Well, that's so that's next Monday. You'll have that ready on Monday for the next review.
Yes, I'll have that ready for. Yep.
All right, Hecate,
But
you're next.
I'm pretty confident we have both of our submissions for our showdown. So whenever it is time for us to do that, yep, I have Chain Weaver from Hecate, and I have what's it called? The Chainbound from Soul. We got a Chain Weaver and a Chainbound.
I'm really curious about this spell that Dez is gonna submit called Find Steve. I'm just assuming that it finds the nearest NPC named Steve.
That would be top tier.
Just the nearest NPC named Steve just appears in front of you.
Imagine nobody in High Point is named Steve, and you have to travel all the way to our world to find a Steve.
Oh, that actually, you know what would be a dope ass spell? Oh, I gotta think about this now. Because it can't just be named this, but I'd have to find like the nearest adjacent. But now I want to like a 9th level spell called Ask Jeeves. It's a 9th level spell that will literally just like the wish spell, but it will answer any question. So you cast it, and just like this wish spell, you get any wish you want. This is, you get the answer to any one question you want.
Now, how powerful is this?
Same as the wish spell. If you have one wish, it has to be like one dedicated thing. But if you have like if you could stack it somehow, but like the idea is it would be as powerful as the wish spell as long as you could, as long as the knowledge is knowable. Like as long as it's something that has an answer, you can
do something to the effect of ask for a deity's true name?
Yes, it would work for something like that. Now, whether or not you could pronounce it or understand it is completely not the point. But yes, it would answer truthfully. That is the type of spell. That's why it would be like a 9th level spell. It would literally be like Ask Jeeves or like, true knowledge or something, right? But the idea being you can ask one question and it will answer. That would be a dope ass spell.
Now, would it, because I know that there are some things that just need to be spoken aloud in order to come into effect. So is this something that would be spoken aloud, or is it implanting the information into your mind? Are you just gaining the knowledge?
I think it would be you have to speak the question and then you would just have the knowledge, because there's nothing answering. It's not like a genie. It's not like a god answering the question. It's just the answer.
You're not summoning Jeeves and you're like inputting the question and it's like giving it to you. Although that would be interesting if there was like some interface that casting the spell like brought up and you use the interface to ask Jeeves and then it displayed the answer for you. That's wild.
Why are there so many people with a fantasy power trip in D&D? I mean, it was specifically designed to let people live out a fantasy power trip. Like, you know what I mean? That's like asking why. I mean, there's a lot of things that were designed to let people live out their fantasies, and that's pretty much what D&D wants to be. Is everyone wants to be a superhero? Like, that's the whole point. Is everyone wants to wield magic and be the hero that takes effort, that nobody wants to actually put the effort into being.
Pretty freaking much.
I mean, realistically, it's like, it would be like playing a Star Wars game, but not wanting to play a Jedi or a Sith. Like, think about that. It's like, why are so many people who play Star Wars TTRPGs always into the Force? It's like, that's the point. It's so you have the fantasy. Like, you wouldn't want to, think about it. You really wouldn't want to, like, you could play Boba Fett or something like that, but you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't want to play just like some race that's in the cantina. Like, the whole thing is you want to be involved in it.
It's gonna be one of the guys sitting on the thing playing.
I mean, maybe there are people who are like that, but I feel like that's the kind of question that was like, there's, it's like, why are there so many, toxic gun guys in Call of Duty? A game designed for toxic gun guys. Like, why are there so many, sports jocks that play FIFA and, like NBA 2K? The game was designed for them. Like, I feel like D&D, it was catered to people who want that experience perfectly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I just glanced at our list, and one of Dez's Warlock subclass submissions is called the Alpha Werewolf.
The Alpha Werewolf. Interesting.
Alpha
I have
Werewolf.
wondered if I should I have wondered if someone would ever do like a series of alphas, because like in Supernatural they talked about like the first vampire, the first like werewolf, and so I'm wondering if anyone would ever do like a series of that. I'm always skeptical because I feel like those are best left to the world they reside in, because you never know really where like those like origins are best described.
You see, what I would do for something like that is I would present general information and not specific stats, right? Like, imagine if I was creating like a stat block for something like this. I would be like, I'm not going to say you can do this once a day or you can do this whatever. Like, I would give like general information and then allow the DM to kind of like specify it as they see fit for their world, but give them like a framework to go.
The closest I would do would be like the first turned. Like, I don't know if I would codify like the very first vampire, but I would absolutely be comfortable codifying the first human turned vampire. Like, the first human that original vampire turned, I'm okay codifying that, because then that's just saying a human turned vampire, this is what happened the first time. And then you can dilute it however you want. But saying what that first vampire is takes not necessarily takes away, but it's like, but what if my vampire is a god? What if my vampire's a mutation? What if my vampire is, a disease? Whereas if you just say, but the first human to contract vampirism had these stats, it's like, oh, I can work with that, because it doesn't really screw up my narrative or my origin story. it just identifies where it began, and then I can dilute it from there. So that's where my one line would be, is like, I won't mind the first turn, but before that, it's like, let the DM do that.
Traditionally, is Dracula supposed to be the first vampire?
Yes, I think technically they were supposed to be the origin. But other storylines went from the idea of taking, it further of, well, if they have always been around, then they try to, look into other cultures and where they could have like expanded into that. But yeah, in Dracula's storyline, Dracula was supposed to be basically like the one and only, as far as I understand.
First.
I don't believe he has like an origin story of like he's the last of a kind. I'm pretty sure he was like the first and or only. Well, he wasn't the only because he had wives, but you know what I'm saying.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
Oh yeah, it was a gift, right? Yeah, he got it from like a deal with the devil or something. It was an exchange of sorts.
Is that what happened?
In the very original story, that sounds about right. It's been so long since I've actually read the original book.
Yeah, I mean, I keep thinking back to when I first watched Castlevania. And like that version of Dracula and how he was kind of like their origin. So I was curious how much that aligned with traditional Dracula lore. I mean, I know not wholly, obviously, but still.
Yeah, I don't even know anymore. It's been changed so many times. I don't even try to bother thinking like, what was the original? It's like, it's which one do you like the best? How about that?
Very true. Very true.
Like no offense, but Underworld did some pretty good things with their creativity. So, I don't mind.
Dude, Underworld was fun. I also really enjoyed Blade. Well, I liked the first Blade.
Yeah, first Blade's lore was pretty good. I mean, even Interview with a Vampire had some great lore.
Yes.
Like all of the Anne Rice books had some great lore. So there's a lot that you can go off of depending on what your favorite is.
Did I send you that TikTok about vampires and fae? And
I think so.
Little like cyclical thing they'd get into, like, hey, you're in my house. I invited you in. I have power over you, but also you invited me in, so now I have power. I don't know. It was weird.
Oh that's actually like so funny. That is really like the first. I joked, but it really is the premise of like the first 3 books of the Dresden Files series, of just understanding vampire and fae, like that the whole concept of like how supernatural layers work. That's really just all of those book series. Like the first couple books are literally conversations about who has what power.
The hierarchy of stuff. It's basically a bunch of Magic the Gathering players trying to figure out who goes on the stack first.
It kind of is actually. That's funny. That is a great way to put how the Fae work. It's a real life Magic the Gathering of, wait, what card played first?
Wait, you did that? Wait, but then I do this. But no, but mine does this. But mine resolves first. No, but that's not resolved. Oh. Yeah, whatever.
Wait, I invited you. It's like, yes, but I accepted the invite. It's like, but wait, no, you did accept the invite, which means I'm not allowed to. Oh, it's great.
That's not how that works.
All right. Well, looks like we have a busy year finally. We have some reviews ahead of us. We have some plans. We have a review next week from Hecate. And we will finally, once again, create something ourselves for this Friday. So it'll be another Misfit Gamers creation.
Looking forward to it. Absolutely.
All right, cool. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Des, thank you for all of the submissions. We'll take a break next week and do some Hecate next week. But yeah, we'll get back right into rotation. We will do some of our own creations on Friday. And we will have the subathon, not this weekend, but next weekend on the 9th. So hopefully you guys had a fantastic weekend. I hope you have a great week ahead of you. We'll be back on Friday, but have a good rest of your night. And if you see us online in between now and then, come say hi. Other than that, that's us. Cheers.
Deuces, my friends.